Defects in registration systems. The majority of registered legal instruments and associated titles are good. What happens in rare cases when a legal instrument is defective and results in a title which is not good? Well, that is all framed by the type of system it's registered through, whether it's monojural, simply kind of managed by kind of the common law or background law, or if it's bijural, has multiple legislative frameworks. So monojural is a negative registration of deeds approach. So negative registration reflects the ordinary rules of property law. So this is described by Lord Easy as a negative system operates within the normal rules of the law of property. Registration, although usually necessary, is not a sufficient step for the creation of a real right. There must also be a valid deed granted by a person with title to grant. So a person acquires ownership if and only if the grantor owns the land and the transfer was properly carried out. So title thus flows from the register only in the sense that registration marks the final stage in the process of transfer, and the registration of a conveyance which is void or granted a non-domino confers no right at all, i.e. it's void. So the title here is a relative title as it's derived from those legal instruments. So how do you correct under a monojural system? It's simple. There's only one option. You correct based upon the rules within the common law. You cannot sell what you do not own. So this is a process for any system which doesn't include registration of title. So what happens in a bijural positive system, i.e. that used by the register of title? So in positive registration, the ordinary rules of property law are set aside. Title flows from the register and not from the transferor's conveyance. A person is entered as owner on the register is actually the owner. If the conveyance was good, the title so conferred is absolutely good. If the conveyance was bad, the title is good but voidable. So a positive system confers the right in question by the very act of registration and without regard to the validity of the underlying title. So as a general rule, positive system does not admit the possibility of void titles. The majority, but not all, title registration systems are positive, and title is an absolute title as it is taken from the register. How do you correct under a bijural system? This becomes more complicated. So as described by Lord Easy, you can have a deed register, you can have a title register. In the main, there should be no difference between the two. The issues with a title register is what happens with an inaccuracy. If it is resolved under the common law, then equality is maintained. If, however, it is resolved under the registration law and that leads to a different response to the common law, then a bijural inaccuracy ensues, i.e. you have two different pieces of legislation but look at your registered elements and they would come to two different interpretations when faced with an error. That is a bijural inaccuracy. So it's possible to get two views on how to resolve that invalid legal instrument. The view based upon the common law, you cannot sell what you do not own, or the view based upon registration law, which may override the common law, where the act of registration makes an indefeasible title. And this is a conflict called bijural inaccuracy. So the issue here is which legal framework takes priority and what is the redress. So, defective registration in the bijural system. It really needs to frame two issues. Who to protect? The choice of that is generally very simple. It's a choice between a person seeking to acquire the property right, i.e. the grantee, and the person who owns the land. Or how to protect. And that choice of how to protect lies between protection which is deferred and protection which is immediate and indefeasible. So who is a matter of policy and how is technique. So who should take precedence in terms of understanding the process. So who to protect. Under general law, security of ownership gives preference to the grantor. So the traditional answer is not in doubt. A transfer which is radically defective is no transfer at all. Ownership therefore remains where it was and the would-be acquirer must go without. However, under positive registration law, facility of transfer gives preference to the grantee. So, but if a land is on a register of title, it is only necessary to check that the seller is a person listed on the register as owner. So it's easy to register the deed, even if it's invalid. So, but also the general view in the literature is that to make life easy for acquirers is also to make titles to land less secure. So get back to an earlier point, with modern indexing, it doesn't have to be this way. So we're starting to see that Register of Title does give some benefits in terms of particularly facility of transfer, but it does come at a number of legal costs. Now, can we use indexing processes to reduce the cost element associated with this? Let's look at that in more detail in the next video.